some questions and stuff. So let me just tell these guys. Okay, GG's, guys. Epic Games.
That was pretty funny.
GG, man. He had like he had a redonkulous bank, but only 9 gateways.
Yeah.
So even when his
Like I
army
saw, yeah.
wasn't that big, he was like, well, as long as the game goes longer, he's going to keep warping in units.
Yeah. And I made the same mistake too. I shouldn't have base traded. That was a huge mistake.
Yeah,
Like,
I was like, is this going to be worth it? It like almost was, and then like a few storms hit, and it was like, oh. Yeah. All right, so Primelot, we're getting both of you guys in the call because you guys have had such long games. That was pretty epic.
Yeah.
Lots of late game engagements, lots of stuff to talk about. So, I'm just going to try and get your levels correct again. Primelot, can you make sure your mic's right in front of your mouth, and can you just tell me what you thought of that last game?
I thought my first initial thought was like, well, guys, I lost this game because like with terrain, like I had completely no vision over the left side of the map, so I don't see his army movement because I don't have an oracle. So he literally just stims into my whole economy and my main base and kills my production, and then he just needs to trade good and rebuilds his army and then get a good fight, and then the game is won. But unfortunately, Epic didn't get that. I mean, his army, what he lost was like so much actually, but I think it's still worth if he gets the production, and he got my second Nexus also. Like, it's pretty hard if you have no production as Protoss. Like,
Absolutely.
you saw, I had like so much minerals and gas, like, but like I played in, I don't know, in like 2-3 months. I never played such games, like really.
These were pretty wacky. Like Epic was very resilient and had very very good ability to keep macroing and expanding in late game, whereas a lot of Terran players kind of they feel like, oh, the game's gone too long, so I need to go more all in. Whereas Epic was very happy to try and keep taking these good late game fights. Sorry, can I get you guys into a party with me? Sorry, can you leave? Oh, there we go. I'll join your. Can you make me the party leader?
Yeah.
So we're going to start just answering questions from chat while we continue to talk about the games. I'm just loading up a replay so you guys can see what I'm looking at, and we can like kind of look at examples. So this is the previous one where Epic, I think, did even better with that attack, but then extended a little bit too much and ended up taking a lot of storms and dying. So we'll kind of just glance at this while answering a few questions. So besides diving into the base, it was still quite a hard situation from the early stages, Epic. So what do you think about the earlier stages of the game, if you can cast your mind back? Do you think the game could have gone better for you in these last couple of games?
Yeah, but I think part of it is just that Stargates are really good opening against what I decided to do. But I also could have played it a lot better. I don't have too much experience dealing with like fast Stargate players because most people at this point go fast Robo. So
fair enough. What about the Oracle change up here, Primelot? Was that something which you did because he denied your scouting this time around in the early stage?
Yeah, like I think there are some different Oracle styles or Stargate styles. Like I can talk you through it. Like there are like styles from Harston. He's just building 2 Oracles and then tagging. Then there's like mine or the Neep aspect. He's doing like 1 Oracle and then doing like Phoenixes for anti-air because you need anti-air with potential liberators anyways. And Phoenix are good in denying drops. And yeah, I didn't scout him, so I wasn't like sure. Oh, is he going again for Widowmine drop? I mean, I saw a starport, but still he can do like siege tank things and stuff. So I was just like I was just like going safe. Then I lost my Oracle, so I didn't have vision all game long, and that like I think is a pretty big mistake because the Oracle is always useful.
What do you think, Epic?
I didn't know that he could see the Stargate, starport. That was a mistake. Like I thought I put it far enough back that he couldn't see it.
Yeah, it was like literally like 1 centimeter or so. Like it was really close.
I don't think, because I didn't realize that either, but I think this is the scout here at this point, this shade. Oh no, it's the next shade. So it was quite late that it was scouted. It was this shade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just barely close enough. So if you put it, I guess up to the left of the command center would be
Yeah,
the
that's
spot
what
to
I
put
did
the
for that
factory
one.
and starport. Okay, that's cool. That's actually interesting because I assumed that would be hidden as well. So that's always interesting that sort of stuff happens. So let's ask some questions from chats. There's a few already in there, guys. Oh, I do want to say a big thanks to Love Machine, who's just sent me some code, which I'll check out later. I'll try that out later after the stream's over and give you a big thank you. Kaiser said, no, okay, where do we go? There's good questions. Is it worth it to go battle cruisers for any reasons ever in the late game of TVP, says True Edge.
Not as far as I know. I mean, I don't have too much experience with it. I haven't tried it, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, like, Yamato Cannon was good when games were very slow in HOTS, right? And you didn't need to expand,
Right.
and you could sit on 4 base for like 25 minutes because Yamato Cannon would get free damage. But other than that, it doesn't really perform well versus any units, right? Like, it's kind of good for
Yeah.
tanking in air battles, but because Tempests are so good and they do bonus to massive, like, I can't imagine it's particularly good versus Tempests.
Does Yamato outrange the Tempest Cannon?
Don't think so. I think Yamato range would be like maybe 10 or 12 at most for like activating it, whereas a Tempest is what, 17 range, something like that?
With vision, I think it is like 15, 14 without vision.
Right. So pretty
Like something like that.
Yeah,
pretty damn
definitely
big.
not worth it.
Pretty
Yeah.
damn big.
Yeah, I would just say like you need tech labs and starports for battle cruisers. Like that's just the reason enough, like not to build them. Then you also need Yamato cannons, and then you also need upgrades for the battle cruisers because they are just bad, I think, without them. So yeah, I think there isn't any reason to use Yamato, but it's a nice fort. But in the games, I think you can do that.
Yeah. Hard to get the production up, expensive to build, slow to build, and then when you get it, it's a slow unit that isn't that great. So it's there's just too many downsides for the very few ups. But another good question here for Terran, for Epic here from July Terran. He says, how do you do damage versus a Protoss who goes for Colossus tech? I feel like once Protoss gets 2 Colossi out, you as the Terran must play defensive for a few minutes.
Don't think I would agree. I mean, it's once they have a lot of Colossi, then you can't be out on the map with your full army because it's too easy to get caught out. But you can definitely still drop. You can definitely still like poke around, and when it's only 2 Colossi, you can actually just take a straight up fight if you micro that properly.
Yeah, like if you get a big open area, right?
Right. If you have a concave, you can just destroy that army.
Yeah.
It also depends on what they have complementing the Colossi. If it's just stalkers, then if you have a big bio ball and split it up right, like it shouldn't be a problem. That's like part of the swarm TVP. If they have a lot of adepts though, those are very tanky and that makes it very difficult to get to the Colossi and kill them. And so like you won't lose your army, but you also won't be able to fight.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I mean, that's why in earlier days in HOTS, we'd sometimes see like only 1 or 2 tech labs on your 5 barracks 2 base production, but these days it's almost always 3 tech labs, 2 reactors, because you need that heavy marauder count, because they can tank versus adepts, they can tank versus Colossus, and they can kill Colossus and Stalkers very quickly. And while they don't kill adepts that quickly, they don't die to them either. So it kind of works out as this balanced composition, right? Where if you get the engage or you ever get a flank, 6 marauders like can stim in and kill the Colossi really quickly or something like that, right?
Yeah. The other thing, the other reason you want to go Marauder heavy is because when you get into a fight against adepts, what you generally want to do is keep the Marauders in front, or like the Marauders should be close to the adepts and the Marines should stim back. And that way, like, your Marines still can deal out the DPS, because Marauders do terrible DPS, but they're not going to die. So.
Fantastic. I think that's that's pretty damn useful for a lot of these players watching, so that should be awesome. Alright, so let's see if there's any questions for Primelot. There's so many epic questions, man. a lot of Terran players in chat today. Glory to the Daemon. No. Okay, cool. So we'll just keep asking the questions from chat and then I'll throw some questions out as well. Okay, so we've got one. Granis says, for Epic and Primelot, what is your mindset for this matchup in general? Do you go for late game? Will you try to micro them in early game? Do you finish it as fast as possible? Is Protoss OP? Or just generally, where do you... I guess to summarize that question, it's like, where do you guys feel your strengths are? Because obviously as pro players, you guys always have to adjust to a lot of different scenarios, and sometimes you want to all in, sometimes you're forced to play a macro game. But so we'll start with you, Primelot. Where do you feel like your strength is? Is it in the mid game?
Yeah, like once you establish like 3 bases and the time where you can make plays happen, like you harass, you take good engages, yeah, you have good vision on the map, like that things. I think I like my strengths, I would say, or I feel the most comfortable with. And yeah, like my mindset going in the match is like I don't know Epic, so I don't know what he's playing. So I'm just trying like my go for build. I'm confident with the Stargate build order, so I'm doing that. And like I'm trying to scout to see what he's doing, like, and then yeah, goes. I think my approach is to play standard, you know, like. I could all in him, but I rather play like a game because I'm like confident, or say like, yeah, I can out harass that guy and stuff.
Awesome.
Like,
what about? Yep.
Yeah, that's my approach.
Cool, man. All right. What about you, Epic?
So, in general, I like to be very, very aggressive in the mid game, but in these games, I got very far behind, I thought, after the early game, and so I had to sit back. In addition, PvP varies a lot in the Protoss style. Like, pretty much every Terran is going to be going bio, a few Liberators, maybe eventually Ghosts. But Protoss has a lot of different styles, and they've kind of gone in and out of the meta. So, originally there was like the gateway styles, and against those you really couldn't be out on the map, because if you got shaded upon and then they blink, you're just going to lose your entire army. And so there you have to play very defensive and wait for Ghosts. You don't really have a choice. But then with Colossus styles, you can be a lot more aggressive. And so you really have to be scouting the Protoss composition, either by pushing out on the map with like small drops or like scanning or something, so you know what to expect. This game I actually also made the mistake of going Vikings, so I thought I was just going to be Colossi again. I didn't really scout the Templar until way too late. But yeah, I think overall the matchup is pretty fine. It's pretty hard to come back if you're ever behind, because Protoss can go up to high-tech units and you just can't afford the counters.
Yeah.
Like, you can try to turbo with Liberators, but once Protoss takes 4 or 5 bases and you're stuck on 3, you don't really have a chance. So, that's the only difficulty, but there's also a lot of harass that you can do in the late game. That I don't really understand the way the builders match up too well, and so Beyond seems to always make it work. It's one thing that I'd like to eventually figure out. He'll just do the same build every game. Both with his like 8 Marines, somehow kill like a bunch of probes, even when the Protoss is open. So I don't really understand that. But.
The mysteries of Terran, man. Like there's so many different complexities to execution, right? And like these slight adjustments and tactics and unit movement. Like it's always, yeah. I feel like sometimes whoever's the best Terran player at any moment, it's always like trying to learn from life. Where like I'd always say like, don't stop trying to copy life. Yes, he's awesome, but like you're not gonna do anything he does effectively, like because he's so mechanically good. And Terran sometimes does operate like that, especially when you got someone like Beyond who is so fast and so precise. But that's a good perspective. Thank you very much. So I've got another question here for Primelot, and that's from MYI Smile. What up, Max? He says, "How much do you miss me, Bay?"
Yeah, I miss we were together in the MYI house, and yeah, that was some good times, man. I really miss him. Like, it was nice there.
Nice. The MYI house. I was back there a long time ago as well, back in 2014, playing Go for SC2 Cups and getting cannon rushed and DT followed up by DTs against you, Primelot. That's
really?
That's what I always remember. Yeah, I always recognize your name because I'm like, that's the guy who would always. You'd do like the Zealot cannon rush as well, the one which was like super bizarre, and I was always like, no, this is stupid, this shouldn't work, and then I'd like get knocked out in like a best of one. I'd be like, no, and get all ragey and angry.
Yeah, like I think that was the time. What was his name? I think Cal. He did it like with a soul key when he was like really good and on SKT. Yeah, and I think I picked that up and like when I was like I played with your ladder and lost some games, won some games. So when I'm not confident, I probably was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm just trying this, and yeah.
Cannons and
Like-
zealots, let's go.
Yeah, like I mean, come on, when you see it, like that's not hard to make like a proxy gateway and the proxy forge and then cannon rush. Like, I think there are like harder things in StarCraft than to do that.
All right, I got another good question here from Flexible. He says, Pig, how do you as a Protoss determine the right amount of stalkers when a Terran goes for a lot of liberators? So obviously this is for you, Primelot. How many stalkers versus lots of libs?
Like you need like, if you go Colossus Blink, you can build like 30 stalkers, and if you like get the army a bit out of position, you just can blink in and literally kill like 6 liberators, and you lose obviously like 15 stalkers, but you can replace stalkers really fast, and he can replace liberators. So if you just sniping then I don't know, like 30 are good. You need to snipe the liberators because the Colossus are just killing the bio and the adepts also. But I think like 15 to 16 is like the amount you need to one shot. And yeah, like 15, 16 is always good, like in any style. Like you can transition faster if you have like 15 or 16. And if you have like 30, that's like so many resources. You got to do something with them. You can't just sit on them. Because if he has like 15 or 16 liberators, yeah, your 30 stalkers will just gonna melt no matter what.
Oh yeah, and against Marauders as well, they kind of scare pretty badly.
Yeah,
So
like you can't blink under liberators and bio, like.
I think one issue people sometimes have as well is not recognizing the difference between someone who, after 4 medevacs, goes straight up to 6 liberators, where they sacrifice a lot of healing, a lot of drop mobility to have one very strong push timing, compared to a player who goes for range liberators and really turtles hard through the mid game and tries to get to like 8 or 9 range liberators and then do a much later push. And those, like, I feel like they're very different styles. And I think versus anyone going range libs, like, yes, you're still going to have stalkers in the mid game, but you're pretty much going to be going for tempests a lot of the time versus this sort of later Tempest transition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess recognizing like the differences in what type of Liberator count you're going up against like changes your response, and eventually the answer is always going to be Tempests. How many Tempests do you feel like you can start to hold off a slow Liberator push with? Is it like just 3 Tempests? Do you feel like there's a magic Tempest count, like 6 or 9?
Like if you just like sieges forward like really slow, and you have like 3 Tempests, you can't camp like in the same position for days. Like so he is on the timer, he's like fuck, I need to kill him now. And then if he goes in, you have Storm, you have Colossus, it's really hard to do. And yeah, I think like 6 is the best because you one-shot Liberators then. But like when I saw Neat playing or in super late game, I think the best is just like 15, 16 Tempest, High Templar, Mars Gateways, Cannons, Oracle's Mothership, and then you're just like splitting the map, and then yeah, you're just gonna poke over and over and just gonna trade good. And if he comes in, you just storm in because he has no vision. Like that's how Needed plays, and I think it's the best because like if you're controlling it right, I think your winning chances are really high.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to move on to some of my questions because okay, we want to kind of round up the episode very soon. It's been a long one. The games were epic and awesome though. So getting towards the last couple of points I wanted to talk about with you guys is I wanted to talk about late game in this matchup because I really think that's what this episode is defined by. Late game interactions between Tempests, Templar, Ghosts, Vikings, Liberators. We got to see a lot of these big frontal engagements in the later stages. Now, first thing, Epic me and Epic were chatting for a long time where we were trying to find that regame point where it took us forever to actually find it because I accidentally loaded the long replay, so sorry for that wait, by the way. And he was saying that he thinks DTs are actually like amazing for harassment, and if you were, say, running in with 4 DTs, sniper turret next to a planetary, like it just makes his life really, really hard. What do you think?
When I see his replay, he has some bases he doesn't have turrets, and that's like he need turrets, so he gets really hard punished if he forgets it. And like obviously he's right. You can't even like send in like, I don't know, 4 zealots and 80 T's before a fight and just snipe the whole planetary, like, because the chances that he reacts I think quite low, because you're so concentrated when you're fighting in late game. He needs to control his army, his ghosts, and his Vikings if he can. And it's the same for me. Like, a drop or like some units are just so annoying and you're just so distracted. Like you like, that's a really good advice by him. Like, you can punish your opponent for like a bad multitasking. And
Yeah.
you can really abuse it, and then you're just winning really hard if you snipe it one base like in a fight, and then or get a good fight because he watches that planetary. Like, I think I should have did DTs way earlier.
Okay,
Also,
awesome.
like the plus point for DTs, I can just like, for DTs on the map, I have vision on certain points, and also if he goes through that, the DTs attack him and spot him. DTs are really useful.
Awesome. All right. So that's something people can always add in the late game when you got a bit of excess money. Something which can always help out. Now, I do want to talk about the frontal engagements. Now, we're about to watch a point in the replay. You guys can both see the replay, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is something which happened a lot, which was all your High Templar getting EMP'd, and even in the regame, you not having vision, because either your Oracle would get sniped by the Vikings or you'd forget to build it for a very long time. So you did mention losing the Oracle in the early game really hurt you later on because you couldn't keep following his army. When we were talking, Epic also identified, he's like, I think the High Templar are on his main army key because I keep just going forward and EMPing all of the High Templar in a clump. And I felt like this is, like, I felt like some of these games, if you didn't let this happen, you could have probably closed the game out 5-10 minutes earlier. What do you think?
Yeah, the thing is, like, free army hotkeys are actually quite hard to control and useful. So I'm a bit lazy and like just queuing like my important units on the second key. But I let them move with my main army because, like, when I played with the 2-key setups, I so often forgot High Templars like being stuck and stuff. Like, so I need to have like extra attention, like that I don't like move just all the time with my army and get picked off. But like in that game, you see, like, that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah. So I mean,
like to be honest, like there were so many fights where I just lost because I get my like this fight. Like, I just lose because I have no storms. You can't just stand in. If I have storm, like, never can do that.
Yeah.
So either I control them better, or I just, like, you see, I have 2 High Templars there. So I just set up, like 6 High Templars in all directions, and if he just stands behind me, I can just storm him, and then he's probably losing so many units.
Yeah.
Like,
so I guess suggestions for some of the players watching at home is either put the High Templar on a separate hotkey and always move them a little bit behind your main army, or I think with either case, you need to manually spread them a bit anyway. So even if you've got them on your main army hotkey, it's still going to be important to do what you normally, I'm sure, would do in some of your games a lot better than this game, where you just manually, each time you move your army, you box your Templar and make sure you kind of spread them out and pull most of them back a little bit. And that's really important. And the thing is, this becomes easier if you have vision of his army as well, because a lot of the time you didn't see him moving forward because you didn't have that vision. You'd often be surprised by his army movement. So, like, honestly, just having the Oracle tagging probably would have completely avoided this situation in the first place. Because many times we see this where, you end up getting your whole army EMP'd and it goes down. So from your point of sight, I think we've covered a few things there which you could have done better and would have made the games a lot easier. But what about from Epic's side? Is it just hunting for those EMPs? Is it hunting for that engage with a big concave and then just trying to dodge storms? Is that what it's all about?
I mean, this game I was also, like, obviously, like, ignoring the fights, I was not in a very good position. So I couldn't really set up, like, turrets or, like, sensor towers so I could always know where his army is. So most of my games don't end up working like this when I go to late game. This was more, he was out on the map and I was trying to look for a quick punch so that I could somehow get back in the game.
Okay, cool. Your mic's just cutting out just slightly, but just if you guys didn't catch it on the stream, he was just saying basically because he didn't Epic didn't have a good enough economic situation like he normally would have. He couldn't set up sensor towers and turrets and the full beautiful setup of late game. But because Primelot was out in the middle of the map a lot, he was often just going for a sudden punch and trying to take the sick fight and kept finding that opportunity. So if the game doesn't go like that, would you say you're much more careful with kind of steadily pushing forward with planetary fortresses? You're not doing these sudden dives on the enemy army as much?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think these sudden dives are very, very, like, you have to catch them off guard. And I think, like, I did this game a lot, but if they're paying attention, it should never happen. And so it's not, like, a reliable way to do it at a high level. One other thing you can do is try to distract them. So here I was kind of just looking for when he was distracting himself. So if I saw, like, Zealots going to my third, I'd look for an EMP opportunity. But otherwise, I could be the one dropping or sending out Liberators to mirror lines, and then use it as a distraction to try to get an EMP off.
That's awesome. And, you know, it's cool to hear about it in those terms as well, where it's like, it's about where the attention is. And this is one of those things which people don't necessarily think about if they haven't played at a super high level, but that's what it becomes a lot about with these armies, where you've got this interaction of High Templar versus EMPs is like so big. Basically, it's the splash damage for both sides, which have the power to completely nullify the other side's splash damage if you use their spells correctly through feedback and EMP, right? So if one of you isn't watching, you can just lose all the splash damage and then your main army is almost useless and the other guy just kills you. So there's so much focus put on this main army that you think of drops and Liberator harassment not as things that deal direct damage. That's just a bonus. It's all about pulling your opponent's attention away so that you can get those better engagements in the front where it's most important. So the focus is always on the front. It's not like you pick up 6 medevacs and drop them here and send 5 Liberators somewhere else. It's always just a small piece that your army can use without in order to pull your opponent's distraction around. And then if they're not putting enough attention on the drops and the counterattacks, well, you can start getting damage done to their economy and all that sort of stuff. Cool. So I think that's a pretty good summary of it all, guys. I really want to thank you guys for coming on and kind of discussing this with me. I think I really should cut it off now. I'm definitely going to have to split this VOD up because it's like an hour and 40 minutes long or something crazy. It's a little bit insane. This show always goes a bit longer because I do want to, like, I feel like it's a good chance for you guys to get a little bit of practice in and hopefully learn something about the other race. But most importantly for the viewers to actually see high-level players in an environment where we're repeating the same scenario, we're practicing it, talking about the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and answering as many questions from chat as possible. So I do want to really thank you guys for coming on and taking time out of your day to do this. So any shout-outs, Epic, first of all, before I let you go?
Shout out to my team. Psystorm, they're pretty cool.
Psystorm is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then people who I custom with, most recently just Billy, but yeah.
Was that Pilly, sorry?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sick, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And how about you, Primelot?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my new team, Isimba. They're cool dudes. And I also want to give a big shout out to Granas, like Coach Granas on Twitter. He's like currently my, like you could say, mental coach because I have problems with my mindset and he's helping me really a lot. So that's my 2 big shout outs.
Awesome. Granis is a cool guy. Awesome, man. He's always hanging out and tweeting and everything like that. So he's always someone I like interacting with. He's always asking good questions. So sick, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I will cut the VOD off in just a minute. So thanks, guys. Massive thanks. Everyone can follow them at SC2. No, it's Primelot SC2 and SC2 Epic on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And if you guys have Twitch streams, if you guys stream much at all, please go ahead and send me your Twitch links as well so I can add them into the video and into Twitch chat and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Awesome. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out. I appreciate all of you hanging out, watching today's show. I know some of you guys are like, oh, you know, I haven't heard of Epic before or Primelot necessarily. These guys are both kind of that up-and-coming generation of players. You guys wouldn't have seen at that many big, huge WCS events this year. They're playing at these LANs at a local level, but not just a local level, but also, you know, nationally, going to tournaments, competing online for a while now, and they are getting to that very high level. So, as much as I love having this kind of like a laser on the show, and you know, all these crazy top level players that I've had the pleasure of having on in the past. Having a bit of a bigger range of pro gamers, I'm finding a really good mix of players who are also better at explaining some of the more fundamental things they do, whereas sometimes the other players kind of see it as so obvious that they're not actually explaining it. So I'm really happy that I've started getting a kind of broader spectrum of pros, not necessarily the ones I know from events, but all sorts of ones. And those guys were actually really good at explaining. I do apologize if their mics weren't 100% clear. I did my best to like get the levels correct before the show started, but it was a little bit of a battle because they didn't have the best quality microphones. But I think you guys caught most of what they said. If anything's really bad, I'll try to annotate key points into the video. For now, thank you so much for hanging out, guys. Don't forget to hug a cactus, lick a walrus, and of course, punch a watermelon to the moon. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.